All is not well in the world's second largest economy. After being the economic powerhouse of global growth for decades, China is going through one of its most challenging economic downturns in recent history. According to the IMF, China's GDP growth would drop from 5.2% in 2023 to 4.6% this year. And this downward spiral can continue to 3.4% by 2028. Is China's economy a ticking time bomb? How does China's slowdown affect the world? Could India replace China as the world's new growth engine? We'll explore these questions in the show today. There are a host of complex domestic and global factors contributing to China's slowdown. There is lack of jobs in a fast-aging population. We'll talk about that, but at the heart of the current crisis lies the Chinese property or real estate sector. Let's find out how. Since the 1980s, since China opened its markets, the property sector has been the growth engine for its economy. Can you guess how big is it? Approximately 25% of China's GDP. In January this year, a Hong Kong court issued an order for the liquidation of financially troubled Chinese property giant Evergrande. It was found entangled in debts exceeding $300 billion. Only a symptom of the bigger economic crisis. Like any aspirational middle-class society across the world, in China too, owning a house or a property is seen as a measure of stability, security and stature. But what is unique is that China stands out as a nation of homeowners. That means over 80% of households own their residences and more than 20% of urban households hold multiple homes. Remarkably, China accomplished this level of home ownership within a brief span of 3 decades. In fact, around 70% of family wealth in every household in China is tied or is invested in property. Now, with high demand, the average house price in China more than doubled in the decade from 2010 to 2020. On the face of it, these developments appear symptomatic of a booming economy. Then what went wrong? Chinese property market offered a win-win deal for the home buyer and the property seller. But as demand source and supply is limited, how do you keep a lucrative business going? You instead sell a promise of a house. Technically, it is called pre-sale. It is a sale and purchase of a house that actually does not exist. In fact, by 2020, this sort of speculative transactions or pre-sales became the key source of earning for property developers in China. Alarmed by the growing debt in the sector, policymakers implemented a strict regulation called the 3 Red Lines policy in 2020. Property developers now had to qualify certain debt-asset ratio conditions to get more loans. This period of unchecked debt-funded property boom was coming to an end. By 2022, continuing liquidity crunch forced developers to slow the pace of building. Home buyers in at least 100 cities threatened to halt the mortgage payments. Meanwhile, billions of dollars worth of debt taken by property developers from financial institutions was mounting.
In the winter of 2017, I spent 2.5 million yuan to buy 2 apartments. The project was intermittently halted in 2020 due to issues with resettlement, housing and debt, leading to a complete stop after Evergrande's financial troubles became public at the end of 2021. The total sales volume of this project was around 2 billion yuan, affecting probably over 1,000 households, though I don't have the exact figure. As of now, the main contractor has pulled out and the project's progress is painfully slow. Despite the government's attempts to push forward, the effects have been barely noticeable and we seem to have no other way to resolve this issue.
The case in point, China's second largest property developer, Evergrande. Unable to clear government conditions, it could no longer pay off or refinance its debt. In January 2024, a court in Hong Kong ordered the company to be wound up. Other major property developers face similar fate. In fact, over half of the largest 50 developers in China are currently in a state of default. The defaulters could neither repay the home buyers nor deliver the pre-sales houses. House prices dropped, sales dropped, construction activity slowed down. The engine of Chinese economy had suffered a major blow. Fast-growing volumes of debt impacted everyone, from home buyers to developers to financial institutions and even local governments. The local governments whose key earnings are derived from leasing of land for real estate projects have suffered adversely. The outstanding debt in the property market stands at nearly $8 trillion. Mind you, that figure is nearly half of China's GDP. So what is China doing about this crisis? To tackle the downturn, the government is ramping up financing for home projects as part of its support measures. But banks' reluctance to lend to the crisis-hit sector remains a major obstacle for distressed developers who need fresh funding. In fact, recently, China's central bank has announced a deep cut to bank reserves in a move that will inject about $140 billion of cash into the banking system, send a strong signal of support for a fragile economy. Now, the second big problem in Chinese economy. As businesses remain wary of adding workers in the face of uncertainties, the second most populated country in the world faces the challenge of rising unemployment. The situation is so bad in August last year, China suspended youth jobless data after record high readings. The report had stated a 21.3% unemployment rate. That's more than 1 in 4 of the roughly 100 million Chinese aged 16 to 24 were unemployed. It also marked a trend by Chinese authorities to restrict access to key data and information, something that is unnerving overseas investors. Those who find jobs earn less than they expect as businesses cut costs in response to poor domestic demand. The National Bureau of Statistics resumed the publication of youth unemployment data in December of 2023 after a 5-month suspension. The new jobless rate was put at 14.9%. Convenient. Managing data perhaps is easier than tackling employment. Coming to the third big crisis in Chinese economy, the youth have their challenges and so do the old. China's aging population poses significant challenge for Beijing in the next decade. A record low birth rate in 2023, coupled with surge in COVID fatalities, has led to a consecutive year of population decline, intensifying worries about China's demographic shift. With a substantial portion of 1.4 billion inhabitants in the world's second largest economy moving out of the labor force and transitioning beyond a prime consumption age, structural imbalances are exacerbated. Household consumption's contribution to China's economic output is already among the lowest globally, while numerous provincial governments responsible for pensions and elderly care grapple with deep debts resulting from decades of credit-driven investment-driven growth. Over the next decade, approximately 300 million individuals aged 50 to 60, China's largest demographic group, equivalent to almost the entire US population, are anticipated to exit the workforce. If things remain as they are, the state-run Chinese Academy of Sciences foresees the pension system running out of funds by 2035.
So China's facing a demographic time bomb and really needs to increase the retirement age for China. Right now, most workers in state-owned enterprises retire at age 50 for women, 55 for men. But the average life expectancy in China is actually longer here than it is in the United States. So Chinese workers need to work for another 10, 15 years, minimum longer. So I expect the Chinese government is going to raise the minimum age for retirement to 60, 65 in the next several years in order to keep getting enough people to work and pay into the pension system.
So why should the world be concerned with economic downturn in China? Well, China is said to be responsible for more than 1/3 of global economic growth. So a slowdown in China means obvious cascading impact on global economy as well, signs of which are already visible. With Chinese slowdown and other factors, Fitch Ratings expects world growth in 2024, this year, to fall sharply to 2.1% from 2.4% in 2023. China is also a major consumer market for global companies. As the demand further drops in China, it will have a knockout effect on production, jobs, earnings in different parts of the world. To bring the economy on track, China must repair its relations and trade ties with major powers, particularly with the United States, its largest trading partner. As China's annual global exports dropped for the first time in 7 years in 2023, commerce with the US was valued at $664 billion last year. This is down about 11% from 2022. Interestingly though, trade between China and Russia hit record high of $240 billion in 2023. There are many strategic implications of China's slowdown as well. The contentious Belt and Road project, for example. China has already invested over $1 trillion in collaboration with around 150 countries. It is an investment-heavy project. Slowdown at home would impact the future of this intercontinental project. Experts say economic concerns could also dictate how China goes about its ambitions about the larger Indo-Pacific region in general and Taiwan in particular. Now, slowdown in China comes at a time when the world is bullish about India. The recent developments in global stock markets is a testimony to that. India, as the fastest growing large economy, has the potential to become third largest economy in the world by 2030. In a report titled China Slows, India Grows, S&P says it expects Asia-Pacific's growth engine to shift from China to South and Southeast Asia. Talking about India's opportunity, there are two key points to consider. First, in terms of demographic dividend. As I mentioned earlier, China's population decline is underway. Its aging population directly impacts the labor supply and demands more welfare funding. On the other hand, 65% of India's population is under the age of 35. Second, China's strategic differences with the Western world, led by the US, also affects its hegemony over global supply chains. India can play a key role in diversifying global supply chains, particularly in the domain of semiconductors and critical minerals. As China gets its act together to put the economy back on track, it will be interesting to see how India, the United States, and other like-minded countries seize this opportunity to challenge and redefine the global economic order. Time for a breather on connecting the dots. Imagine controlling your phone with your mind, sending messages, playing games, all without lifting a finger. Sounds like science fiction, right? But thanks to Elon Musk's Neuralink, this might be closer than you think. We explore this next.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political, and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times. In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such change makers. Watch Change Makers on DD India. believe in telepathy, where you can communicate with others mentally by using your thoughts without using words or any physical signals? Interesting, right? There have been several telepathy experiments in the past. However, there is no good evidence that telepathy exists. The topic is generally considered pseudoscience by scientific community. Then we may wonder why we're talking about it now. The reason is Elon Musk, the tech billionaire who owns companies like SpaceX and Tesla. Musk has announced that his company Neuralink has implanted wireless brain chip in a human for the first time. Imagine this, a coin-sized chip implanted in your skull with ultra-thin wires connected to your brain, a direct brain-computer interface. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's real. The idea is the implanted chip will register brain activity and send it over to a device such as a smartphone through Bluetooth connection. The first Neuralink product will be called telepathy. It would allow people to control their phones or computers just by thinking. Elon Musk says it will initially be used by people who have lost the ability to use their limbs, for example, people with paralysis. Taking to X, Musk said the initial results show promising neuron spike detection. However, he did not provide further details. Musk has touted Neuralink as the future of technology and medicine. Before we move ahead, let's understand what exactly is Neuralink. Neuralink is an American neurotechnology company. It was 2016 when Elon Musk, with a team of 7 scientists and engineers, founded Neuralink in California. These scientists were experts in different fields such as neuroscience, biochemistry, and robotics. They started working on developing a device capable of inserting very thin threads into the brain. These threads could then pick up signals from the brain, develop a brain-computer interface. Well, easier said than done. There are approximately 100 billion neurons in a mature human brain. Each neuron can make connections with more than 1,000 other neurons. Every time we want to move, feel, or think, an electrical impulse is generated and sent at a lightning speed from one neuron to another. So the process is incredibly complex. Initially, Neuralink planned human testing in 2020, but this was postponed to 2023. The US Food and Drug Administration had given the company approval for human trials in September 2023. Before the human trials, Neuralink tested its chip on monkeys and pigs. Watch this video. A monkey is playing a video game through its Neuralink implant. However, the company has faced criticism over reports of deaths of monkeys and other animals while testing. Musk has denied this. In a social media post, he said no monkey has died as a result of a Neuralink implant. He says they chose terminal monkeys, which are already close to death, to minimize risk to healthy monkeys. Now back to brain-computer interface, or BCI. Elon Musk's Neuralink is not alone in this space. Australian neurotech startup Synchron is ramping up production of its flagship brain-computer interface, Synchron Switch. The interesting fact is that the company is funded by Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates and Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. The sharp contrast with Synchron's device is that it does not require a cut in the skull to install its implant. Instead, a stent-like device is inserted through the patient's blood vessels. The device allows people with limited physical mobility to operate technology like smartphone devices and cursors with their mind. Now, here we should talk about Philip O'Keefe from Australia. He suffers from paralysis, cannot move his upper limbs. In December of 2021, Philip created history. He became the first person in the world to tweet a message using his mind through Synchron's brain-computer interface. The tweet was made on the account of Synchron CEO Thomas Oxley. According to reports, there are some 40 brain-computer interface trials underway in the United States. The race for brain-computer interfaces is heating up. China has bold ambitions to develop its own brain-computer products by 2025. After Neuralink's human trial, China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology brought a policy document mentioning big plans to push hard on cutting-edge technologies, including brain-computer interfaces. So in the coming years, more experiments are going to come in this space. However, experts have raised concerns around the experimentation of Neuralink's brain chip on animals. Experts also flag the potential risks associated with brain surgery, such as brain hemorrhage or seizures. There are no details on the ability of users to control their personal data and neural activity. This raises the concerns that recipients' privacy may be compromised through the brain chip. There is also a possibility that this technology is used for surveillance. See this report. The US Department of Transportation fined Neuralink earlier this year for violating regulations regarding the movement of hazardous materials. The report says the company was found guilty of improper packaging of hazardous waste, including flammable liquid xylene. According to US Center for Disease Control and Prevention, xylene can cause headaches, dizziness, loss of muscle coordination, and even death. So concerns loom large over ethical implications of brain-computer interface. But as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. As we venture into the uncharted territories, one thing is for sure: the age of telepathy and brain-computer interface is upon us. The future of communication is closer than we think. Well, that's all in this edition of Connecting the Dots. We'll see you next week with more raging issues that touch our lives and imagination. Goodbye for now from all of us in the Delhi newsroom. Take care. Namaskar.